My family kicked me out at 18. Then my grandfather's lawyer found me 12 years later. My family kicked me out of our mansion when I was 18 and told me my grandfather had disowned me. 12 years later, his lawyer found me at my workplace and said, "Your grandfather left you something your family never knew existed." When I was 18, my family told me I had stolen $40,000 from my grandfather. I hadn't, but my older brother had already convinced everyone that I was responsible. My mother believed him. My uncle believed him. Even my grandfather appeared to believe him. At least that's what I thought. The night I was kicked out, my mother stood at the front door with my suitcase. She wouldn't look me in the eyes. "You have to go." I remember staring at her. "Mom, I didn't take anything." She shook her head. "Your brother found the bank records." I looked toward my older brother. He was standing behind her. He didn't say a word. He just watched me leave. My grandfather was upstairs. I begged my mother to let me talk to him. She refused. "He doesn't want to see you." Those words stayed with me for 12 years. I left that night with a backpack, some clothes, and less than $200. I slept on a friend's couch. Then I found a small job. Eventually, I rented my own apartment. I built a life completely separate from my family. I never called them. They never called me. For years, I wondered whether my grandfather really believed I had stolen from him. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, someone walked into my workplace. An older man in a dark suit approached my desk. "Are you Daniel Carter?" I nodded. "My name is Thomas Reed." He placed a business card on my desk. I recognized the law firm. It was the same firm that had handled my grandfather's business for decades. Thomas looked at me. "Your grandfather died 3 months ago." I already knew. I'd seen the obituary. I hadn't attended the funeral. I didn't think I belonged there. Thomas continued. "Before he died, he gave me very specific instructions. I expected him to tell me that Grandpa had left me nothing. Instead, he said, 'Your grandfather wanted me to find you.'" I couldn't speak. "Why?" Thomas opened his briefcase. He pulled out a sealed envelope. My name was written across it. The handwriting was unmistakable. My grandfather's. I stared at it for several seconds. Then I opened it. There were only a few sentences. "Daniel, if Thomas has found you, then I wasn't able to fix what happened when you were 18. My hands started shaking. I kept reading. "I know you didn't steal the money." I stopped. For 12 years, I had wondered whether he believed me. He had known. He had known the entire time. I looked at Thomas. "What happened?" He sat down. "Your grandfather discovered the truth shortly after you left." I couldn't believe it. "Then why didn't he come after me?" Thomas looked uncomfortable. "Because by then he was afraid." "Afraid of who?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Your brother." My older brother, Michael, had always been the golden child. He was 4 years older than me. He was confident, charming, ambitious. Everyone loved him. When we were teenagers, my grandfather started teaching both of us about the family business. I hated it. Michael loved it. He wanted to inherit everything. I wanted to go to college and eventually become a teacher. Grandpa used to laugh about it. He would say, "Michael wants the company. Daniel wants a life." I never understood why that bothered Michael. Apparently, it bothered him a lot. Thomas explained that several months before I was kicked out, Grandpa had discovered missing money from the company. Not $40,000, almost $2 million. Someone had been moving money through different accounts. Grandpa initially suspected an employee. Then he discovered the transfers were connected to Michael. But Michael had already prepared a story. He had moved $40,000 into an account under my name. The account was technically mine, but I hadn't accessed it. Michael had obtained my banking information and used it to make the transfer. When Grandpa discovered the transaction, Michael told him I had stolen the money. Grandpa believed the evidence. At first, then I was thrown out. But Grandpa didn't stop investigating. Within weeks, he discovered the larger fraud. Michael had been stealing from the company for years. The $40,000 had simply been a way to make me look guilty. I stared at Thomas. "Why didn't Grandpa tell me?" Thomas sighed. "Because your grandfather was worried that if Michael knew he'd discovered everything, he would destroy the evidence. So Grandpa just let me disappear?" "He didn't." Thomas reached into his briefcase again. He pulled out a stack of letters, my letters. I recognized the envelopes immediately. They were addressed to me, but I had never received them. Thomas explained that Grandpa had written me repeatedly. He had tried to contact me, but my mother intercepted the letters. I stared at her name on the document. My mother had known. She had known Grandpa wanted to speak to me. She had kept the letters from me. I felt sick. "Why?" Thomas didn't answer. Instead, he gave me another document. It was a bank statement. My mother's name appeared beside several transfers. She had been receiving money from Michael for years. I couldn't believe it. My mother hadn't simply believed my brother. She had been helping him. Thomas then told me the part that changed everything. My grandfather had created a trust. It had been established shortly after I left. The trust contained several properties and investments, but there was a condition. I couldn't access them until I turned 30. My grandfather had deliberately chosen 30 because he wanted me to become independent before receiving anything. I was now 30. The trust was worth approximately $6 million. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was absurd. My family had thrown me out with nothing, and now I was being told my grandfather had secretly left me millions. But Thomas wasn't finished. "There is something else." He gave me another folder. Inside was a company ownership agreement. My grandfather hadn't simply left me money. He had left me controlling shares in the family business. I stared at the document. "Why?" Thomas answered, "Because your grandfather believed Michael would eventually destroy the company." Then I realized something. Michael Michael wasn't running the company, my uncle was. That meant something had happened. Thomas nodded. Your brother lost control of the company 2 years ago. What happened? He tried to sell it. Apparently, Michael had secretly negotiated a sale to an investment group, but the sale couldn't happen without my grandfather's approval. Grandpa refused. Michael became furious. He threatened to expose family secret. Grandpa responded by removing Michael from the company. Michael had spent the next 2 years trying to regain control. Then Grandpa died. Michael assumed everything would finally belong to him. He was wrong. The trust made me the majority shareholder. My family had spent 12 years believing I was gone. They had no idea I'd become the person with control over everything. The next morning, I went to the family mansion. I hadn't been there since I was 18. The gates opened. A housekeeper recognized me. She started crying. You're back. I walked inside. Everything looked smaller. My mother was in the living room. She froze when she saw me. Michael came downstairs. His expression changed instantly. What are you doing here? I placed the documents on the table. Thomas stood behind me. Michael picked up the first page. His face went pale. You can't be serious. I said nothing. My mother started crying. Daniel, please. I looked at her. Why did you keep Grandpa's letters from me? She didn't answer. Michael did, because he wanted to turn you against us. I looked at him. You framed me. He shook his head. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. He started yelling. He said Grandpa had always favored me. He said I had never appreciated the family. He said he had worked his entire life for the company. I finally asked him, then why did you steal $2 million? He went silent. Thomas placed the financial records on the table. The evidence was overwhelming. Michael had been moving company money through Shell account. My mother had helped conceal some of the transfers. My uncle had known about parts of the scheme. Everyone had been protecting everyone else, except me. I had been the only person outside the circle. That's why Grandpa had trusted me with control. Not because I was smarter, not because I was more ambitious, because I wasn't part of the corruption. Michael eventually faced criminal charges. My mother cooperated with investigators. My uncle resigned. The company survived, but it had to be completely rebuilt. I became chairman. At first, I hated every second of it. I didn't want the company. I didn't want the mansion. I didn't want the money. I wanted the 12 years I'd lost, but I couldn't get those back. So I did something my family never expected. I sold the mansion. Then I used part of the money to create a scholarship in my grandfather's name. I also kept the company. Not because I suddenly loved business, because I wanted to make sure nobody could steal from the employees who depended on it. Months later, my mother asked to see me. We sat across from each other in a quiet restaurant. She looked older, smaller. I was wrong, she said. I didn't answer. I thought Michael needed me more than you did. That sentence hurt more than the accusation. I finally asked, did Grandpa really believe me? She looked down. Yes. Then why did he let me leave? She started crying. He didn't know how to stop Michael without putting you in danger. I understood, but understanding wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Before I left, she handed me something. It was another letter from Grandpa. This one wasn't about money. It said, Daniel, I know you may hate me for what happened. I can't blame you, but I hope one day you understand that I didn't give you an inheritance because you were my favorite. I gave it to you because you were the only person in this family who never asked me what you would receive when I died. I read that sentence several times. Then I realized what Grandpa had actually left me. Not the company, not the money, not the mansion. He had left me the truth. For 12 years, I had believed my family rejected me because I wasn't good enough. The truth was almost the opposite. I was the only one Grandpa trusted enough to walk away from the family. And by the time I came back, I wasn't the 18-year-old boy standing outside the mansion with a suitcase anymore. I was 30, independent, and completely free to decide what happened next. My family had spent 12 years trying to erase me from the inheritance. In the end, they had only erased themselves, and the person they thought they'd thrown away became the one person who could finally decide what the family legacy would become.
Like and subscribe for more videos like these. Thanks for watching.